Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the performance of the Super Saiyan Broly Full Power, the blue Super Saiyan Broly that recently got his Zenkai on DB Legends. Now Broly, honestly speaking, really good. I'm going to be honest, I think he's really top notch. A lot of people are saying he's top 10. I would be inclined to agree. I think Broly is very much one of the best units in the game. He has a little bit of a period where he needs to build up. We'll talk about that when we talk about his kit and everything. So like he has this brief window where he really has to build up. He also needs his green card realistically, but with the equips that he has and with everything that he brings to the table, I gotta be honest, he looks really good. Like really good. So anyway, let's talk about his kit a little bit. You will see it flashing up on the screen. Obviously as well, just bear in mind that he does have a plat, and he also has, of course, like very good raw stats. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's talk about him, obviously. So his main ability now, very important. It has obviously his nullification of cover change, which is really important, cancellation of attribute downgrade, key restoration of 6, health restoration, all very good, but it lets him draw gigantic force next, which is obviously his ultimate move. Speaking of moves, you know, his ultimate arts card is very important to him as a unit, giving him that 40% damage inflicted buff. Also, minus 100% to enemy sustained CUT effects. His nullification of health restoration to 0. It nullifies unfavorable elements. It inflicts forced switching on a hit. It does a lot. And like when we talk about Broly, and we're going to talk about like his crit rates and everything like that. But when we talk about Broly, his gigantic force is a big part of that. Broly has the ability to just kind of like one-shot units with this ability. With all the attribute upgrades and the downgrades he gives, alongside as well the fact that it removes unfavorable elements, Broly can do big damage to anyone that happens to get in the way of this attack. And that's a very big component to his overall kit. Next, in terms of his abilities, yeah, he has blast armor on his strike card. Very big. He gets key restoration on his key cards as well, which is solid. His green card is very important to him. It gives him a damage inflicted buff, which is big, but it gives him an increase to his arts card draw speed and also a flat 30% damage reduction increase, which is very crucial towards how Broly works like as a unit in general. Then on top of that, on his normal special move, he cancels enemy attribute upgrades and buffs and has a 30% chance to inflict feint, which is huge. Feint, if anyone knows, is a very big mechanic that they usually are not a fan of buffing, and they didn't buff it, they kept it the same rate in Legends. Units with feint, it's kind of like paralysis but a little bit more improved. It's a very good ability because it basically lets you set yourself up to full combo a unit if you can get it off, which is huge. So yeah, on top of that, his actual passives are where he tends to shine. Obviously before he was always like a good unit. I don't think Broly was ever terrible, but I think he kind of faded out very quickly. A lot of that's because of his team as well. We're lucky that Powerful Opponent has received quite a few buffs recently, but his kit overall is really where things are crazy. He's got that plus 50% to Saiyan tags. He's got a plus 50% strike damage inflicted to anyone that's not a Saiyan. So if he's a Saiyan, you just got flat 50% boost against you. If you're not a Saiyan, he still has a 50% strike boost, which is his main arts. Every time he uses an arts card, he's got key restoration, he's got damage inflicted buff, and that's very big. That's what I talk about, that window where he boosts himself up. When he boosts, when he gets a couple strike cards off, you'll see the huge jump in damage. Couple that with his damage inflicted boost that he gets after vanish stepping and his key restoration. That means that if Broly can vanish step into setting himself up into combo, he can have this window where he can do a lot of damage, like a lot of damage. When he enters the battlefield, he reduces damage received by 40% and randomly destroys an enemy card, which is good, especially in conjunction to his green. And then while the enemy switches characters, this is very important. He'll restore his vanishing gauge by 50%. This is huge. You'll notice this a couple times throughout the video. But when you're pressurizing the unit and they cover change, Broly getting that soft reset on his vanishing gauge helps him out so much, especially if the cover change doesn't lead into a full combo. It essentially allows him to consistently keep up pressure and not have to switch out to cover their cover change. Which sounds weird, but in theory you'll kind of get what I'm meaning. Broly doesn't have to soft reset by switching out. Broly will kind of soft reset himself just by giving himself the vanishing gauge back. So it's really, really good stuff. You also have obviously the increased arts card draw speed, which is big. And he also has more increase to damage inflicted. So there's a lot of damage inflicted buffs for Broly, which is where things start to kind of cascade. If you vanish step, if you hit combos, if you hit the enemy with your special, if you have the enemy switch, if you switch in on the enemy, you start to rack up these damage inflicted buffs, and they stack very quickly. His new abilities with his Zenkai. So if you cover change, he restores health after cover changing, only 5%, but it is important. He also nullifies enemy reduced key effects, which is also very important for him, especially in the current meta, which is good. Every time the enemy uses a key or strike card while he's on the field, he reduces their key. So this helps again with preventing combos. And then in terms of his final passive, he has that flat 30% damage inflicted buff, 30% key recovery when the battle starts, and he gets plus 15% to damage inflicted every time one of the following conditions is met. 30 timer counts, when this character uses a vanishing step, when this character uses a strike arts card, when this character uses a blast arts card 5 times. So all of that's really, really, really strong overall. The big thing is his plat equip. So he obviously has a unique plat. You would have seen it in the beginning. It was the first equip. It's very important because it also gives him another damage boost. So he gets 10% to damage inflicted when he defeats an enemy, or 25% to damage inflicted when he defeats an enemy, or 50% to damage inflicted when he defeats an enemy. With his base health increase as well, 15%. So the reason why this equip is so important is, like I said, Broly is stacking a lot of damage inflicted buffs. Damage inflicted buffs are different to attack buffs, in that they are actually boosting the net damage after the calculation of attack to defense. So where Broly really starts to rack up is if he starts to stagger and build up these damage inflicted buffs, then he can very easily start to wipe out units quite quickly. And if Broly just defeats one of the opposition's units, because of all the different multipliers and different attack buffs building in, Broly can start to really kind of waterfall in quite badly. Like Broly can really start to kind of flood, get a bit crazy. He can really start to kind of escalate to ridiculous levels, and it's really cool to see, but it's also very, very overwhelming, especially if you are like a newer player who's maybe playing a Zenkai Broly for the first time. There can be a situation where you can feel like once he gets that first kill, he's not going to stop. And like I said, because of the combination, because of the restoration of his vanishing gauge, because of the fact that he reduces your key, because of the fact that he has a lot of ways to gain his own key within combo, Broly can really just get a bit out of hand. And you're going to see him here. He's going to insta one-shot Ultra Vegito. This is going to trigger his damage inflicted buff. And when the opponent switches in, my vanishing gauge is already fully recharged. So it's big, it's very dangerous. It makes him like a very interesting variation of kind of like an Ultra Vegito, who obviously restores his vanishing gauge every time he gets the kill. But yeah, it's very good. Broly looks excellent. I gotta be honest, he's looking really, really top. And I'm really enjoying using him. I think he's really, really good.